What's up everyone? In today's video, I'm going to show you how I made my own climbing sticks. Recently, I posted my DIY saddle setup online, and I've been getting a ton of questions. And so this is pretty much just answering all those questions. Even when you buy sticks and stands and stuff from the factory, there are still some dangers with that. I strongly suggest nobody try to attempt to do this. And if you do attempt to do anything that you're seeing in this video, it goes without saying, you're doing so at your own risk. So the first thing I did was I cut a 9-inch piece of 1/4-inch thick steel. I then round the edges and clean it up. I then cut a 1-inch piece of C-channel, and then I clamp it to the back of the 9-inch step. I then weld it together. And drill a hole through the center of both pieces. Once I have my step welded and the hole drilled through, I use it to mark a piece of 3/4-inch steel square tubing. Now I'm working on the standoffs, and I use the same 1/4-inch thick flat steel bar. I cut 2 pieces at 3 inches and 1 piece at 1 inch. I then weld them together. This is what the finished product looks like. To tighten my steps up, I 3D printed some knobs. I also 3D printed a Versa button. For all my connections, I'm using grade 8 bolts. I now drill out for the Versa button. I use a grade 8 bolt and my 3D printed part. Now I'm putting 2 holes on each side of the steps so that I can put a thicker piece of plastic on the face of the steps. Once I have everything built, I disassemble and get ready to paint it. I add water to a container, and then I use spray paint to create my camouflage pattern. I dip each piece separately. Once I have all my pieces dipped, I then start to reassemble. I put a tack weld on the grade 8 bolt to attach it to the standoff. That way, they're one solid piece and it can't spin on me. I make them to where they can spin. That way, they're easier to stack. This is that 3D printed version of a Versa button. This is just a piece that I 3D printed, and that is so that I can hook it to my backpack to carry the sticks, and also so that I can hook it to a piece of AmSteel that's connected to my saddle when I'm climbing the tree. This just gets connected with a regular bolt because it doesn't carry any weight. Now I'm hooking up the piece of AmSteel that I'm going to use to attach it to the tree. I put a Prusik nut on the end of the AmSteel for two reasons. One, it's an attachment method, and two, I can use it when I'm wrapping up my sticks, as you can see here. On two of the sticks, I put an aider on the bottom. I use glow-in-the-dark tape to help me see when it's dark. And I connect them using a girth hitch with a piece of AmSteel. On my bottom stick, I will run a 3-step aider. If you want to see how I created this aider, check out my one stick video. Alright, so let's just kind of take a second and go over everything. To start off with, I'm using a piece of 3/4 inch steel tubing. I probably should use 1 inch, however, I'm trying to cut back on weight, and I think that the 3/4 inch will hold my weight just fine. Now, when they make the sticks in the factory, what they're using is a piece of 1 inch 6061 square tube aluminum. It is a very strong aluminum, not the stuff that you're finding in these big box stores. That stuff is not strong enough, it will bend, and you have a possibility of the bolt ripping through. Okay, so then if we move on, we'll see the Versa button. That is 3D printed. It is plastic. However, the Versa button itself, the plastic itself, is not what's carrying the weight. The weight is being carried by the bolt, And even if the plastic were to break and somehow fall apart and just disintegrate, I would still have a bolt in there to carry my weight. So I'm not concerned about that. If we flip this over, we'll see this part here. This is a clip that I 3D printed, and all this is this allows me to clip this onto my backpack, which has MOLLE looping, and allow me to carry it in and out of the woods. It also allows me to clip onto a piece of AmSteel that I have looped onto my saddle. So when I'm climbing up and down, I can hook this onto a piece of AmSteel, and that allows me to carry it up and down the tree as I'm climbing. It's not going to just fall out. It actually has to be pulled out in order for it to come out. So it's a very secure way of holding my sticks to my backpack and to my saddle as I'm climbing. Now if we move on to the cleat itself, this is steel, flat steel. I think it's a piece of 1-inch flat steel. And I took the grade 8 bolt and I tack welded it to the back. That way, when I am loosening and tightening my bolt, the bolt itself isn't spinning on me and when I'm loosening and tightening this up. So that's the cleat. On to the steps. The steps do have a piece of 3D printed plastic on the step itself. However, that again, just like the Versa button, is not carrying any of the weight. All this piece is doing is giving me a thicker platform to step on, so that when I step on to the step itself, I don't have a very small area, because that would hurt your foot over a long period of time of standing on it. As you're climbing up the tree and putting new sticks on, you'll be standing on these steps, and if you stand on this for a long period of time, it's going to start to hurt your foot because it's so thin. All this is doing is giving me a thicker platform to stand on. I have it bolted through, and I am using these guys here. I forget the name of them, but essentially I got the ones that are flat that don't have the spikes on the end of them. As you can see here, they're just flat, and that allows it to sit almost all the way through the PVC, the plastic, and then the metal itself is what's taking and carrying the weight. So even if this were to completely crumble and fall off, I'm still secure because I have the metal itself locked on. That's what's carrying my weight, not the plastic. The plastic is also giving me traction by being able to cut these grooves into it. I could have cut the grooves into the metal, but I knew I was putting the plastic on anyway. I do have non-slip tape on here, which is gripped, as well as glow-in-the-dark paint. So in the nighttime, this will actually glow just a little bit, enough to where I can see where I'm stepping, so when I'm getting up and down, I can see where I'm stepping. It's not enough to actually glow bright, so if you're not climbing up and down the tree, you most likely won't see them because they don't glow bright enough to be able to see. So I start off by putting my first stick on. I'm not using the 3-step aider that I would normally use. I want to try to keep this a little bit lower because it is a test run and also for filming purposes. So I am speeding up the film a little bit. The original film from start to finish, putting up the sticks and taking them down, was just over 10 minutes. So I'm very happy how these sticks turned out. They're fast and they're super easy to use. I also weighed them and each stick comes in about 2 pounds. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe.